love that, Waverly and Nicole maintain this like sexual chemistry and this passion. And I think there is something to be said about talking openly about desire and about sex and about our wants and how they change and how our identities change and how maybe what we like changes.
I really just want to ask you both how you've been. I mean, the last time we saw each other, it was the height of a pandemic. So,
Gosh,
yeah. And so, Dom, I'll ask you first, how's life been?
life's been good. Thank you. What a lovely question. I feel as though this last chapter has been really important for me personally, and I feel as though we see that reflected in Waverly's evolution this time round, which is really, really cool. And yeah, no, I think I feel more grounded than I've ever felt before, which is a really nice feeling. Yeah, have made some life choices that have, I think, served me really well. And it added to my sense of excitement going back from that place and being able to reconnect with the character and the
Yeah,
rest of the team. Um, yeah,
yeah,
specifically this time it felt really, really important.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. And how about for you, Kat? What's I know you have a new one in your home. So,
One, yeah, I have I find more and more work has become such a special treat. I have a lovely two under three, which is really amazing and exciting. But it also means when I go to work, I get like an unusual amount of time when I get to visit the other side of myself and get real little bit reminded who I am. That kind of gets lost sometimes in the chaos of this chapter of my life. And so for me, it was just in that way for me such a joy to get to come back not only to these characters that I love so much in this team that has become like really a second family, but also get to kind of return to myself and have a little moment of just returning to something that I love so much and a good reminder of that love. And it was an adventure and like just the gratitude to get to do this on so many levels was very present for me.
Yeah.
yeah, wonderful. Well, that sounds beautiful. And I wondered, Dom, you kind of mentioned a little bit of Waverly's journey, but I'd like to hear a little bit. I watched last night, so it was really fun to see you all back together. It was very exciting and just a treat. So I know how things go, but Dom, would you share what you can about where we find Waverly a few years after we last saw Waverly? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we find Waverly and Nicole at the homestead living their domestic Wayhaught life. I think they have been they have been reveling in the simplicity and the sort of afterglow of the wedding and their new marriage. Um, but I think for Waverly, because she's such an ambitious spirit and she is the one who was wanting to break the Earp curse right from the get-go. She's always wanted to be out in the field and alongside her sister, in mission mode. I think that there's only so much crocheting and interior decorating and you know the day-to-day stuff that she loves. Don't get me wrong, like she
Yeah.
loves it and it puts her whole heart and soul into it, but there's only so much of that will satisfy her. And I think that the story in the special that has been really interesting to explore is the fact that those two things can coexist. You can be in a really happy, beautiful relationship, but if there are parts of yourself as an individual that aren't being exercised and fulfilled, there are inevitable tensions that are going to come up. And so we do see that in the relationship. And that was a really interesting layer to explore that then, led us to actually seeing more strength in the
Yeah.
relationship and the fact that Nicole lets her spread her wings. And that's a
Mm.
really beautiful story to tell.
so to speak, right? Since she's
Mm,
an
yeah, literally.
and Kat, would you talk a little bit about where we find Nicole at this juncture?
Yeah, I think Nicole is enjoying the simplicity and the finally having purgatory and a sense of calm. You know, we
Mhm.
find her at the top and she's like finger gunning it out down the street and saying hello to everybody and
Mhm.
such a
Yeah,
beautiful image of where Nicole starts. It's so perfectly
yeah,
encapsulated, I think, for the character in that moment. I think Nicole deep down knows that it's not going to last forever. So I think she's just been enjoying the peace and quiet, knowing that eventually things would probably get crazy again. And I think secretly hoping, deep down, as much as she would never maybe admit it out loud, there's
yeah.
something that she revels in with these crazy Earp girls, and she misses her bestie, and she wants her back, and she wants Waverly to be happy, and she wants Waverly to fulfill that sense of adventure. And she knows that her wife isn't going to be living as her most full, authentic self and her happiest version of herself without that. And I think as much as Nicole wants to hold everyone close and wants to protect everyone, she knows that people need to live and explore and fulfill those wishes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dom, there, I hope I'm not giving anything away, but there is a little line. It's in early on where Waverly says, "Oh no, I'm pansexual now," and so this is this evolution. There's a journey, and it's really lovely for people to see that identity is not always fixed. It moves and shifts, and uh, I think that Waverly is one of the first characters where we really get to see that, even in 2024. Would you talk a little bit about that?
I love that you brought that up.
Well, it's me.
No,
That's where I'm going to go.
yeah, 100%. I was
Yeah,
so proud when I read those words. I
yeah,
thought that was so cool that, especially in that moment where it's such an accepted statement. Like she's actually like, oh no, this is how I identify now. And Wynonna was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And that's just to witness characters like evolving in their identity and the terms and the labels that they choose to describe their experience at that moment, and that being so accepted and embraced by Wynonna, I just thought was so beautiful, and it actually really moved me. And I said it was my favorite line in the whole special, because
yeah.
I guess on a personal level, it really speaks to my own journey with my own discoveries and in my sexuality and my gender expression, and that it's a continuous discovery, and it kind of showcases that in such a beautiful way. And I felt very proud of Waverly. I remember feeling just like, I'm so proud of you as well for this massive journey that you've come on. It's really special and unique, as you say, something we don't see all the time in TV.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And then Kat, Emily in her writing has been really great at this from the beginning. And this couple is really fighting against the trope of, what we used to call lesbian bed death. Like this couple is very, desirous of each other, and there's this strong like sexual element, but even more so, they talk about it. Like Dom has that joke about Nicole breaking her finger, and I mean Waverly has the joke, and it's like, oh, that was my third favorite finger. Like it's so Easter eggy for people. I mean, it's really incredible, and it's funny, but it really actually means something, because I don't even think that L Word talked about sex like that.
Mm.
And would you talk a little bit about how Wynona Earp approaches this very sexual couple?
Yeah, I think it's been so amazing, and I think the gift of getting to live with these characters for as long as we have now is that we have gotten to explore so much. We were
Yeah,
saying earlier, like, when do we get to see? Usually shows end at like the wedding or and then it's like, okay, well, what happens after that? And I think this is like another step. This amazing show is like yet another step further in incredible queer representation. We have this happily married couple, and like, where are they 2.5 years later? And what does that look like? When do we get to live with a couple that's like just genuinely happy? And what's the next step of their adventure? Because I feel like the wedding was like kind of just the beginning for them.
Mhm.
But I love that, Waverly and Nicole maintain this like sexual chemistry and this passion. And I think there is something to be said about talking openly about desire and about sex and about our wants and how they change and how our identities change and how maybe what we like changes. And I think that's a huge part of keeping sexual chemistry alive. And the more we can talk about it in an open, accepting way, I think the more it's destigmatized a little bit for people maybe in their own lives and their own relationships of like, oh yeah, I should talk to my partner openly about this. It's okay to express my desires. And like that helps keeps the spark alive, especially when you're in a long-term committed relationship. So I think it's great. I think this show, like, just to Emily's credit, has always been so sex positive, been so open about talking about those things, and it's never been a taboo thing. And I think it's just an incredible beacon of a wonderful example.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Dom, would you talk about, it's been 8 years since Wynona Earp first came on the scene, and you were probably shooting it well before then. So we're going on almost a decade of this couple, and they are still so resonant. They mean so much to people. And Dom, would you talk a little bit about what you think it is about them that they are such an enduring couple for the fans?
Beautiful question. Yeah, we were saying, I think it was at Comic-Con that we were saying that like this time 10 years ago, we were cast in Wynona. I think that was the
Yeah.
calculation
Yeah.
we made, which is like, when I figured that out and did that calculation, I was like, my goodness, it's a decade of our lives that we have
And a
experienced.
huge decade, like the 20s into the 30s, like it's a huge transformative decade for people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That we've like lived alongside one another and like birthed these characters at the same time and explored our connection through, the connection of these characters alongside one another. It's so special. It's so magical. And I think that like I mean, I think with every character in Wynonna Earp, the thing that shines through is that we are all perfectly imperfect in all of our, mistakes and our multifaceted nature, that we have so many different layers and that we are all accepted in those layers. And I think creating a world where it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to grow, it's okay to figure yourself out and change your identity and to discover those things in a safe environment allows the audience to also create that kind of environment for themselves where they do feel welcome as they are, where they see parts of themselves in one character and then they see parts of themselves in another character, and it's like it can be these beautiful reflections for us to discover ourselves alongside them. So I think for this relationship in particular, like seeing a sex positive queer relationship that are thriving and are just living unapologetically, and even with Waverly's discovery into her sexuality, how we told that story, with all of the complexities and the fears and the difficulty that can come in stepping into those shoes, but also with the rest of the environment accepting it so wholeheartedly, so quickly. Wynona's reaction with the chicks and just all of the little moments that help people feel like, maybe it can be different. Maybe it can, even if I was to come out, maybe it it is okay, and I think that, yeah, Waverly and Nicole do such a beautiful job at that, and Nicole's support in Waverly needing to understanding that she needs to propose in that moment, just all of the nuances between how much they mean to one another at such a fundamental level, and care within an environment where everyone also cares about them, I guess.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you,
I
Dom.
always I always love that this show, like the crazy is and the things that are being challenged or creating like problems are never any of the characters' identities. I think that's always what what the show did so well is like it's never about like, oh, this is like a problematic thing we have to work through. It's just like that's great, but there's this demon over here, and I think but that's
Right.
such a beautiful story device to be like in
Yeah.
life, like we hope that we are all moving towards the experience of like, that's really great. I love you for it, but like, let's go deal. And
Yeah.
I think that's what the show has always done so well, just to piggyback on Dom's amazing answer.
Yeah. I love that addition. Thank you. And then I haven't been asked to wrap just yet, but Kat, I did want to ask you one thing because
Yeah.
Nicole is human and no, in no way supernatural, but so strong and powerful. Um, what do you think if Nicole had a supernatural power? What do you think it is?
I always, at the beginning, I felt like I was always kind of like waiting for Nicole to get a supernatural power. I was like everyone else had these powers, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm like the boring human. Now I love that about her. I
Yeah.
actually like it's like one of my favorite things because I think the audience gets to see themselves in her because she is just a human, but I think we all have to have these beacons of like just humans doing amazing things.
Yeah.
And so I almost like don't even want to say a supernatural power because I've grown to like love that about her so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Um, I think Nicole's, let's say, human power, if I can
Yeah.
twist it a little,
Yeah.
is she is she doesn't give up on people.
Mm,
Um, Despite like anything that would try to push her away. Like she is loyal almost to a fault sometimes, but like she will not give up on you and she will be your most loyal friend. And I think that is such a beautiful quality in somebody. It's one of my favorite things about her. I think her superpower is her ability to always see the best in people, despite maybe their foibles or that they're not acting their best. She is able to dig underneath and see their goodness at their core, and I think that is a superpower.